From Washington, this is VOA News. Father of captured Jordanian pilot pleads for son's return. Deadly al-Shabab raid on African Union base in Somalia. I'm Ray Kouguell reporting from Washington. The father of a Jordanian captured by Islamic State militants in Syria is pleading with a rebel group for the fighter pilot's safe return. The father appealed to the religious extremists to treat his son as a guest, not a hostage, telling them we are all Muslims. The F-16 fighter jet pilot was flying as part of the U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State and went down near the rebel stronghold of Raqqa in northern Syria. The U.S. general overseeing the U.S.-led coalition fighting Islamic State in Syria and Iraq denies militants shot it down and strongly condemned IS for capturing the downed pilot. The African Union mission in Somalia says 9 people are dead after al-Shabab militants attacked its base on the edge of Mogadishu International Airport. The AU mission, known as AMISOM, says that al-Shabab fighters, some dressed in Somali National Army uniforms, breached the compound around midday Thursday, trying to gain access to the infrastructure. 5 attackers, 3 AU soldiers, and 1 civilian contractor died in the ensuing struggle for control of the base, and 3 al-Shabab militants were captured. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control says a laboratory technician may have been accidentally exposed to the Ebola virus. The exposure occurred earlier this week at the agency's Atlanta, Georgia headquarters. The technician is being monitored for a 21-day period, the typical incubation period for the disease. At least 19 people were killed Thursday in fighting with Islamist militants in eastern Libya. The French news agency says the 19 were soldiers killed during clashes in Sirte. This is VOA News. The comedy film The Interview debuted in U.S. theaters Thursday, a week after Sony stopped it from general release across the United States due to threats of violence. Hundreds of independent theaters and small theater chains are following through on Sony's Christmas Day schedule to screen The Interview, which is about 2 journalists who are recruited by U.S. intelligence to assassinate North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. North Korea condemned the movie, and Sony canceled last week's planned release following a massive cyber attack on its corporate network.
A lui, Salvatore del mondo.
Pope Francis delivered his second annual Christmas blessing to thousands of people gathered in St. Peter's Square in Rome, where he condemned what he called the brutal persecution of minorities by the Islamic State group that seized large parts of Syria and Iraq earlier this year. The Pope also called for peace in Ukraine, Nigeria, and the Central African Republic, and condemned last week's Taliban attack against students in Pakistan. Christmas is one of the holiest days for Christians, celebrating the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem more than 2,000 years ago. The Palestinian Authority has been hosting Christmas celebrations in the West Bank town of Bethlehem. Robert Berger has details.
Bells at the Church of the Nativity summoned the faithful to the little town of Bethlehem. Pilgrims came from all over the world to worship at the ancient grotto where tradition says Jesus was born. Stefana Zečević came from Belgrade in Serbia.
It was very spiritual for me and wonderful, giving, sharing, really beautiful. I can feel the Christmas spirit.
It was a low turnout this Christmas in the wake of the 50-day war between Israel and the Palestinian militant group Hamas in the Gaza Strip. A ceasefire has been mostly holding since the violence ended 4 months ago, but tourism to the Holy Land has not recovered. Robert Berger for VOA News, Bethlehem.
Israeli authorities say suspected Palestinian militants threw a firebomb in an Israeli car in the West Bank Thursday, severely wounding an 11-year-old girl. The incident occurred as an Israeli father and his daughter were driving to their home in a Jewish settlement in the occupied territory. The girl was sent to an Israeli hospital for treatment of life-threatening burns over 50% of her body. Talks between Ukrainian government negotiators and their pro-Russian separatist counterparts have failed to produce any breakthrough to end the 8-month conflict in eastern Ukraine. Separatist leaders said Thursday that the only tangible result of the talks in Belarus this week was an agreement on the terms of a prisoner exchange of about 400 fighters. I'm Ray Kouguell in Washington.
That's the latest world news from VOA.